explanations on how this webinar will go. For you, maybe it's also the first time. It's my first time, so I hope everything will be okay, also from a logistical aspect. And I hope that you can all hear very well what we are saying. So just starting with the agenda. So you have received all the agenda. We will have 3 presentations from CIVITAS cities, from Graz in Austria, from Aalborg in Denmark, and from San Sebastian, Universidad San Sebastian in Spain. And then we were supposed to have a presentation from a lobbying association on biodiesel based in Brussels, but unfortunately the speaker has just cancelled. So I will try to say a few words on her behalf, and then we can have some discussions also on the topic. So I want to tell you also that this webinar is recorded in case you need to, or if you want to re-listen to some information. And the presentation will be also available on the CIVITAS website. Then I will remind you on this, this information at the end of the webinar. And for some practical information, so all the participants, for the moment, you are all muted, so it means you cannot speak, or you can speak, but we will not hear you. And only the presenters will be able to speak, so it will be one at a time. And if you have questions, there will be 2 cases. Either your question is really related to the presentation, if something from the slide is not clear, for example, then in this case I would suggest you to write your question. You have on the right side of your screen a possibility to ask questions. If you see in the question, there is a question session, so you can send this question to me, and then I will ask the question, or I will forward the question to the presenter. But I think that the easiest is to have the questions at the end of the presentation and at the end of all the presentation, so that we can have also a good and interesting exchange. So at the end of the presentation, if you want to take the floor, so if you want to speak, there is also this possibility. You have also a small button on your screen below the participant list with a hand, and it's to so it's to raise the hand so that you can show that you want to ask a question, and then the organizer will give you the floor, and then you will be able to ask your question. And you can of course ask your question by writing in the box that I explained before. I think I covered most of the aspects, so I hope this is clear for you. If it's not the case, just send me there is a chat box also, so you can send me a small message with the chat box, which is very easy to use. You just have to select the person, so me, who you want to address the question. So on the running, the presenters will have about 10-15 minutes each, and then we have time for questions. So we have said that we have from 2 to 3:30, but of course it will depend on the discussion and how interesting the discussion gets. So I think this is all for the moment. I hope this is clear. And I will start so by giving the floor to the first speaker, who is Gerhard Ablasser from Graz. He will present us the example of the city of Graz, and give us, so the title of his presentation is Cooking Oil as Resource for Mobility. Just a few words on Gerhard before he speaks. He has been working for the city of Graz since 1989. That's quite a long time. He started first in the vice mayor office, and then he moved to the focusing on the preparation, coordination of European projects. and he's now working on European project with a focus on traffic measurement, traffic strategies for mobility and sustainable mobility. Yeah, so I think that's all. If Gerhard, you want to add a few words on that, you can, of course, add a few words. So I think that's all. Now the floor is yours for 10-15 minutes.
Okay, so thank you for the floor. Welcome all. So I have also to explain that this is very new for me, so it's my first time speaking against the wall or something like that. So I will try to open my presentation. Okay, just a moment and go to the full screen. Okay, so I just want to give you something like a short overview about Graz to know something about the dimension. So you have it also on your screen. Graz is the second largest city in Austria, which means with about 265 inhabitants, but including the students and the employees, we are, let's say, a city with daily about 350,000 people, which means also that public transport and everything must fit to this size of people. What is also important maybe for some of the traffic measures we have done in Graz is that Graz is a World Heritage City since 1999. Graz was also, that is important, I think, also to boost something like the public transportation. Graz was Cultural Capital of Europe in 2003. And for our still running biodiesel bus fleet, we were awarded in 2006. And last but not least, Graz was the CIVITAS City of the Year in 2008. So if I go to the thematic of Graz, and you see it is a branding we used for the CIVITAS Trendsetter project. It was already a project included in CIVITAS 1 with the partners Pech, Lille and Stockholm, with Stockholm as the lead partner. So our slogan was von der Pfanne in den Tank, which means from the frying pan into the tank. So that's the general slogan for the biodiesel bus fleet in Graz, and I can explain you why we call it like that. To give you some information and some overview how the project started, so you see it started also very, very long ago, which means we have a long experience. So the important thing was, on the one side, let's say based on environmental measures, we started to collect used cooking oil in private households. It was still 90. And let's say a process, a cooperation with the University of Graz, the Technical University of Graz. In this time, we started to, let's say, to look if biodiesel can be used in buses. So you see, in 1994 we had 2 buses already running in public transport. In the meantime, there was a new law, a new legislation in Austria, which forced restaurants to collect used cooking oil. So that was also, let's say, a boost for getting some more raw material. And ongoing 2003, with the project CIVITAS Trendsetter, we started, let's say, to continue with the switch from fossil diesel to biodiesel. And with the end of CIVITAS in 2005, the whole bus fleet changed to biodiesel, which means 135 buses. And what is maybe different to other project partners, or even different to other partners, that our bus fleet is running on 100% biodiesel, which is not, let's say, the case in all the other fleets. So just some ideas, some images, how the collection runs. On the one side, we have these baskets you see here. It's a cooperation with a small, let's say, non-profit organization to clean these baskets. And if you have such a basket in your home, it must not be full. You just take it, bring it to a collection point, and you get a new and cleaned one. And you see it, I don't know, do you have from my screen also this, I think I have to clear this part. Maybe it doesn't work. So maybe you can make it smaller. That also doesn't work. So maybe you don't see all my pictures. I don't know. Anyway, so you see on the ground on the right side there is a bigger, let's say, collection equipment which also can be heated, and this is the collection equipment for restaurants. So just to see how it runs, and you see we have already about 250 restaurants where we collect our used cooking oil. So what's now? Doesn't look okay. So at the end, such a project means you need let's say a good partnership with other partners, or one of the partners is the company who produces the biodiesel. Also some images here that where the collected cooking oil is brought to a company, let's say about 40 kilometers south of Graz, and they produce our biodiesel in this company. We had also something like a research behind it, and also a company that produces the plants for the production of biodiesel, which is BDI, which is also situated in the surrounding of Graz, and as I say, the cooperation with the Technical University, the Chemical Institute of the university, and the transport company, which is the city-owned transport company in Graz. Just some impressions. As I explained before, Professor Mittelbach, who was something like the Pope of biodiesel in Graz. Some images from the transport company, how it works. And you see, we use this, our biodiesel in all types of buses. So that's very important, from small buses to big buses. And there is also a very easy and a very nice regulation, or very, how shall I explain it? A very special regulation how we organize this during winter time, but maybe this will be something more for a question of your side. As I explained before, we used our CIVITAS program to transform all the buses to the use of biodiesel, and there are some images from a group in Graz during one of our projects meetings we had already in Graz. What is important, maybe if you switch to biodiesel, maybe if you have an old bus and you like to use biodiesel, and I don't know what is really a big difference if you have a, let's say, blending of 30% or if you go to 100%, but what you already have to do is to have, let's say, change all the rubbers you had before. In the meantime, and that was very important for Graz, that you can really order a bus which fits to the use of biodiesel, and there is no problem to get this if you make some pressure to the bus producers. That's very important. What is also important is that biodiesel is only a successful story if there is no tax on it. You know the situation from Germany, because at the end, as you see here, you have a higher consumption, and no tax and higher consumption means at the end it's the same price. So it's not the price for, let's say, what you can use as a reason for changing. Maybe it's more like to show that you use home produced fuel, or let's say fuel you produce from waste, which is, let's say, very important to explain also to the citizens. As I explained here, so I have listed these arguments. Anyway, we don't need it. But we also had, let's say, a parallel program where we put in some particular catalysts. A project that was at the end not long time successful because there were problems with buses and these catalysts. So at the end, in the meantime, I think they had to put them out. Yeah, lessons learned. At the end, you need a good team to do this. You need a team which is working on all the different sectors or segments, which means universities, operators, also biodiesel producers. It was a high interest how our fleet runs worldwide. Let's say we had teams and also TV teams from Korea, from China, from I don't know, Japan, and everywhere. So it was, for Graz, it was a very good promotion tool. As I explained before, one of the main ideas was to use to use a fuel which can be produced from your own resources you have in your area, and not is, let's say, transported over the whole, let's say, Earth. Maybe this thing also goes a little bit against the ethanol, which already comes from Latin America, but there are some other benefits. And I think what we also learned is that the experience of Graz opened the use of biodiesel on a bigger scale, and even it was something like a promotion which was of the other side was killed by some tax regulation in other European countries. But if you look to the future, I think there is one thing is that for the new technique they use in buses, maybe in the future it will not be possible to use biodiesel anymore. So we still run our buses at the moment. It's also EEV buses, but maybe in future with new technologies it will not be possible. As I explained, we had problems with our particular converters and also some problem with heating system, but they can be solved. But at the end, what I should say as one of the summarizing things is you should not discuss, you should start with a pilot project and go on if you like it. So what is the future in Graz? At the moment we have a pilot project with 4 CNG buses. It runs till 2009, and also we test one hybrid bus also since 2009. In this year, in the spring, we got the articulated hybrid bus, which means a very long bus from Solaris. This runs since February this year. The future will also go maybe to a local produced other fuel, which means maybe go to biogas, but this will be a project that can start in about 5 years or something like that. And I think what also is important that special for taxis and service cars or city-owned cars, smaller cars, we are part in the e-mobility region of Graz and surrounding, and we have also a lot of pilot projects in this e-mobility sector. So that's I try to be in time, so you have already on these slides my contact details, and I thank you for your attention. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Gerhard. I'm just checking if we have some questions from the audience. No, it seems we have no direct question for you for the moment. I have some questions, but I think it's okay if I ask them later, because it's yeah, for the discussion time, and also maybe because the next presenter will be on a similar topic. So maybe we can link the two presentations and then ask question. Yes, we have. Well, I think we have one question, so maybe we can just ask it now. It's a question from Gustav from Aalborg, asking if the city is operating these buses. So Gerhard, I don't know if you want to reply now.
Yeah, I can do it. Yeah.
Okay.
So you know the public transport company in Graz is a 100% city-owned company. So at the end, the city owns not only the buses, the city also owns the drums and everything. So there is no private operator in the city, let's say, or in the city area of Graz. There are private operators which are connected in the traffic association, but the operator in the city of Graz is a city-owned company, which makes it a little bit easier, I think so.
Okay, thank you. So I think if we have no question, we can move to the next presenter, and that's what I was trying to say. We could go to a bit southern Europe and go to San Sebastian, with Eduardo, presenting the D-bus. I don't know if we say like that in Spanish, but the D-bus fleet running also on biodiesel, and also using some oil, I think, from private household or similar. So you have also about 10-15 minutes, and again for the participants, if you have questions, ask them with the chat or with the question. And just a few more words on Eduardo. So Eduardo is a mechanical engineer. So you are the really expert in the area, and you've been working on the Donastia bus or D-bus since 2007. You are responsible for the mechanical maintenance engineering department, and since 2008 you are working with the CIVITAS Archimedes project as work package leader, and I think that's all. If you want to complete, of course you can complete. Now the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Melanie. Thank you for the introduction. Okay, if I am an expert, okay, I try to do as best as possible. That's my job. You explained it very well. Okay, let's start. I try to go through the slides to go on time. So let's begin. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Just a few words about the company and the city. As you said, San Sebastian is in the south of Europe, in the north coast of Spain. It has about 182,000 inhabitants. It's a medium-sized city. Okay, the company, which is the bus, as you said, is the one and only bus operator of the urban transport in San Sebastian, and the company is 125 years old, which is quite much. We run in 36 urban lines with a fleet of 120 buses. The most of the staff obviously are drivers, and despite of the crisis, last year we had 29 million travelers, which is very much, but which is much more important is the ratio of travels per inhabitant per year, which is one of the highest in Europe. Okay. The biodiesel we selected for the experience in CIVITAS was a used cooking oil biodiesel for some main reasons. We have already a diesel fleet, so we don't need to diversify in the fuel supply. We can use the same system, more or less. We also didn't need to purchase special vehicles and make any changes in the depots. We had a previous good adjust maintenance program, so we didn't have to adjust it again. And one very important reason was that the social acceptance of this biodiesel is very high. As Gerard said, it's the same case as in our case, and the popularity of this biodiesel is very good. The sustainable idea is very clear. Okay. So in the pictures also you can see the cycle, no? The recycling of the biodiesel, the collecting of the used cooking oil, the transformation and the supplying right to the buses. Okay. We started with CIVITAS at the end of 2008, and the first thing we did was purchasing a fuel mixing station. So we were able to blend the biodiesel directly to the buses. We already had 2 underground tanks of 60,000 liters each, and we dedicate one to the biodiesel, the BV100, and one to the diesel. In 2009, we started to apply I would say the CIVITAS schedule of blends, but we went always forward to this schedule, and we applied blends to the whole fleet. We started from 60%, as we see here in the graph, and through the years we reached to an average. This graph is for an average blend. So this means that here at the end of last year we reached 35%, but in this 35% we had the main blend in the 120 buses was the V30, 30% of biodiesel and 70% of diesel, you know. But we also had vehicles at V100 totally with biodiesel. Those were, I think that those were 12 vehicles, and also V50. We had vehicles with V50. We not only did apply this biodiesel, we also during this 4 year, it's important to notice that we also had a high renewal of the fleet, and we purchased up to 39 EEV standard vehicles, you know, which is a standard, an optional standard that goes toward the Euro 5, the obligatory Euro 5. Okay. Talking about the steps or the keys of the application of the biodiesel in our case was to obtain the certificates and allowances, certificates of the quality and the supply guarantees of the biodiesel. But this is not only for the biodiesel; it's also for the diesel. You have to control very good the quality of your suppliers to be sure not to have problems with your engines. But also mainly in the buses that the newest ones that were under guarantee, we also had many problems to get the bus manufacturers allowance to use the biodiesel, because their first reaction or the first reaction was not to use the biodiesel, and that if we used any blend, any kind of blends of biodiesel, we would lose the guarantee. But we forced them to allow us, and that's how we could start. Okay. Another key step was when we started with a V16, and the first thing that we noticed was the fuel filters were very dirty during the maintenance, and this mainly happened in the oldest buses, and we thought this was because of the cleaning properties of the biodiesel, but this was a minor problem. Just with the maintenance changing the filters, it was solved. And also the next problem was when we jumped to the V20, also but only in some of buses that were manufactured between 2001 and 2002, we had to change some fuel hoses that came out from their position because they came from this side. They came bigger because they were the material was attacked by the biodiesel, but already the bus manufacturer did have a solution, had the reference another fuel hoses specially designed, so just changing that hoses, it was solved. This is I think interesting and important problem that I'm sure that in the case of grass is much more important. But San Sebastian has a very soft weather indeed, very rainy but very soft temperatures. We are always normally over 0, but the last year during 3 or 4 years, I think it was in February, we reached 8 degrees below 0, and as you see on the pictures, we found this on the fuel filters of the vehicles, only the vehicles that were with V100 and did pass all the night outside of the depots. When we wanted to start the engines the next day, we couldn't, so we made this maintenance. We take out the filters, and we found this. And also in the pictures here with the lighter, you can see that this effect of solidification of I think the fats, or yeah, it was the fats is irreversible. Okay, so in this case we had to immediately change the filters of the vehicles, and we also changed the proportion. We get the blend down to V30 in those buses. We could do that because we have this fuel mixing station, so it was very easy. In this other picture, we can see the filters, the cartridge, or the filters of the pumping station that were also affected. But as the filtering surface was much bigger, we didn't notice it and we didn't have to change it. We just waited until the temperatures got higher, and this was automatically solved by itself. Okay. Okay, yes, that's what I said, I think. Yeah. And okay, here here you can see the emissions results for these 4 years from 2008, late 2008 to 2012. But this is due to the use of the biodiesel, not only for the use of the biodiesel, also for the renewal of the fleet. You can see here all the reductions in local, total emissions. But mainly, I think the most important data is just this substitution of diesel. Instead of diesel, we substitute 3.9 million using biodiesel, and this is what it means in terms of CO2 savings, as you know. Okay. Okay. And the problems, the main problems identified in this experience, and I think this first one is the most important in our case. Again, always I'm talking about our experience. We experimented an increase in fuel consumption up to 8.5%. This is very important, much more nowadays with this economical crisis and so on. And that means that the widespread of deployment of these highest biodiesel blends are not attractive in this moment. How can we softer or mitigate this? We can set lower blends, V30 for example, but anyway we will be suffering lower, but also an overconsumption that has to be paid. So can be set a lower biodiesel blend and also negotiate restrained prices, but this is very limited. Here on the graphs we can see the evolution of the overconsumption, the average one, and also the specific one for 12 meters or 18-meter passes, which are the most important ones. And here this is a comparative graph with the price of the evolution, price of the diesel and the biodiesel. Both have been rising, the diesel and biodiesel. This is for 2011. 2012 the situation is the same, has been rising, and I will talk about it later, but the situation in 2013 has become much more problematic. Okay, another problem is the saturation of the fuel filters that we've seen before in the starting of the use of the biodiesel, for mainly in vehicles that have not used biodiesel, have never used them, so they have all the dust of the inside of their fuel tanks being removed by the biodiesel and so on. So, sorry. Yeah, here. So in this graph we can see how in some specific periods of time we had problems with concentration of problems with fuel filters, but we after investigating this we detected that the problem was not in the biodiesel. Indeed the problem was in the diesel, but because when this happens to the buses, the filters of the pumping station had to be changed. So at the end, problems with the engines is mainly problems with quality of the fuel. And fuel, I mean, if you are using blends, the guilty is not only the biodiesel that is always pointed at the first guilty in these cases. So you have to control very well, very closely for example, the water contamination in your fuel tanks, and also have a very proper maintenance program in the filtering stations and so on. Okay, let's see something more. Yeah, sorry. Sorry. Okay, here. Okay, another problem is in the newest vehicles we have some problems with early errors in the fuel injection system. In the first moment, as I said, the biodiesel is always pointed as a guilty, but by the bus manufacturers. But the truth is that this is a common problem in diesel newest engines, and it only can be solved with a proper maintenance program and controlling the fuel, but the whole fuel. Okay. So this anyway, it's very important to put in contact the biodiesel and bus suppliers to discuss about these points and clarify them. If I don't know if close analysis of the quality of the fuel is needed and discuss about the results and so on. We have done this, but it's very difficult to put in common. It's very difficult indeed to get both and put them in a table and discuss about these themes. Okay, and here is just this next slides are just like a summary of the recommendations to succeed in the replication of our experience. And as I've been talking before, it's very important to have this blending pumping station to react very fast when you need to, I don't know, to downgrade the blends as it happened with the V100 vehicles and so on. It's very important. A proper maintenance program of this fuel station, the filters, the pumps, everything has to be checked and very closely analyzed. The fuel quality also is very important, as we said, to ensure the quality and that we are using. Increased patterns, in our case at least we've seen that it's very important to go step by step, not making big changes from not using biodiesel to V100. I'm sure that can that way you would have had much more problem than in our case. And as we've seen, there are some series of vehicles, but I think that is just in the old ones that the new vehicles right nowadays are prepared. The hoses, the fuel hoses are prepared for biodiesel, so I think that's not a problem right now. But if you are trying to apply biodiesel to vehicles around 10 years old or 10, 12 years old, you should control or check at least that compatibility. And the climate restrictions that below zero, you have to control and downgrade the blends. Okay, this is just about the involvement of the staff. This is very, very important because it's the only way to make them from the maintenance department people to the drivers. It's important to involve them in the experience, to make them participate, and it's the only way that they accept the biofuel from the beginning, because if not, you can have much more problems apart from the technical ones. And also the staff, but also the stakeholders. We have done many workshops to join all the people involved, the fuel suppliers, the people from the municipality, the bus manufacturers, all joined together to talk about the experience and have very quick communication channels to solve the problems immediately. Okay. About the future plans, as I said, there is a lot of work to do about cooperation between the manufacturers and the suppliers, because it's a stupid position that I've been 1 hour ago. I've been here with an MAN representative technician, and I am still waiting for them just to make a meeting with my biofuel supplier, and they are always delaying the data. So it's it's a stupid position. They just don't want to talk together, and it's needed. It's needed because it cannot be understood that someone develops an engine or makes changes in an injection system without knowing exactly or without considering the fuel that is being used in that. So this cooperative studies is still needed between them. And the actual scenario in 2013 is sorry is that from January the taxes, at least in Spain, has risen because until now the biofuel in our case didn't have taxes, and they have started from the 1st of January, and the prices has immediately risen 30%. So that's clear. It's impossible to afford it without an initiative such as CIVITAS. So we depend totally on these prices. We'll have to wait until they low down to start again using the biodiesel. And apart from that, I think that 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, I read the latest European Union initiatives about biofuels and so on, and I was surprised because these initiatives were focused totally in CNG, hydrogen, electricity, and so on, but didn't focus on the biofuels, liquid biofuels like biodiesel and bioethanol, because it's supposed that they are mature technologies that are already implemented and so on, but the truth is not. So I think that's a very dark future for the biodiesel, at least. Okay, that's all. Thank you. I don't know if I've been adjusted to the time.
Not really.
Sorry
but
so
I think
much.
we can make it.
Sorry so much.
No, I think that's okay. But I hope participants were very attentive and are able to ask a lot of questions now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just checking. There is no hand raised, and I don't see any question for the moment. I'm just checking. No. Okay. So I think I've prepared also some questions, but maybe I will just keep them for the discussion part. So I suggest you move to our last presenter from the city. So it's Gustav is from Aalborg. And I will say a few words on Gustav also, if I can find, yes. So you've been working, Gustav, for the city of Aalborg in Denmark since 2006, mainly on sustainable transport project, and you have been the measure leader for implementing the biodiesel vehicles or biodiesel in fleets of the cities, 50 buses and 50 postal service vehicles. And you worked also on Archimedes project since 2008, as measured leader, and also as local dissemination manager for the initiative. So I will give you the floor, and you can complete what I've just said also if you wish.
Okay. Thank you very much. So now we will move from the beautiful city of San Sebastian up to the north of Europe to Denmark, and more specifically to Aalborg, which is a city of approximately 130,000 inhabitants within the city, and about 200,000 inhabitants in the whole municipal area. I will tell about the implementation of biodiesel in buses and postal vehicles as part of the CIVITAS Archimedes project, which ran from 2008. I want to credit Graz because they have kind of been one of the inspirational sources for this measure in Aalborg from their trials with the biodiesel through the CIVITAS 1 project. So I'll just start for telling about the objectives and the background for the project. We wanted in 2008 to demonstrate the possibilities for operating buses on biodiesel. It says 100 here. We have 100 buses serving the city of Aalborg. And we also have a kind of a big postal hub here for delivering mail and parcels. But in contrary to Graz and to San Sebastian, the buses are here operated by private companies who are winning a tender for the operation of buses, which is normally covering 6 or it can be extended to 8 years as well. The tenders are released by the Regional Public Transport Authority, which is owned by the municipality and the region that we are in. And the aim was to run the buses on at least 10% biodiesel during the Archimedes project. We leaned a bit on other projects being made in Denmark at the time, and it seemed that it was quite challenging to go beyond 10% at that time. And we also included the 50 postal vehicles in cooperation with the Postal Service, which is another, it's a public-private company, to also demonstrate the use of biodiesel in vans and in trucks. And also we had an objective or a goal to see what kind of biodiesel that we were using. So we carried out a study in the use of second generation biodiesel as well, and what challenges that may cause. There were a lot of challenges because we were quite new to this, and we had to set up the operation with private companies. So at the first we met a challenge in terms of how to tender public transport operation on biofuels, because we couldn't just force the private companies to operate on biodiesel. They also need to get paid for it, and we asked them to come with an assumption of what the extra cost would be on operating on this. And since they were also new to biodiesel, they might have been a bit, what do you say, they might have overestimated the extra cost for going on biodiesel. Also, we had some challenges in terms of how would this biodiesel product react when it was cold, and it's quite cold in Aalborg in the winter time. There were challenges that the biodiesel was blend with the oil in the engine and caused troubles on that. And we also had some issues about how to guarantee that if the engines were breaking down because of the biodiesel, what to do then. And then we had finally a challenge on how to distribute the biodiesel, and we ended up in 2 different solutions that I will come back to later. So the implementation of the project, it consisted of the tender that we did for public transport. It also was the selection of the biodiesel products, and finally to set up the fueling facilities for the biodiesel. The tender for public transport was carried out in 2009, 1 year inside the Archimedes project, and after we had done the research on what we could do with second generation biodiesel. So the tender was carried out in 2009 and just into 2010 where the winning bids were selected. And we set as a requirement that the buses should operate on second generation biodiesel, and we even put it as specific as AFME, which is an abbreviation of animal fat methyl ester. So it was one rather specific product made in Denmark that we would like to use. And the extra cost that the private operators came up with would be covered by the CIVITAS Archimedes project. So the blend that we selected was at least 10%, but the Public Transport Authority would have the opportunity to raise the blend during the project, of course paying the operators for doing this. And the biodiesel made from slaughterhouse waste was selected, as I told before. And at the end of the Archimedes project, we also tested 20% of biodiesel in the buses. We set up three fueling facilities. There were 2 operators that won the bid of the 50 buses in Aalborg, and at each of their stations they got a fueling station where they could blend the biodiesel with ordinary diesel to get the 10% or the 20% blend. And at the Postal Service we set up one fueling station, as you can see at the right top picture, where the oil company was blending the biodiesel blend and then delivering it directly to the Postal Service. And the Postal Service was testing blends between 10 and 20% of biodiesel. So 10% in the winter time and 20% in summertime. So the results, the evaluation of this has been divided into 2. First we have the emission calculation or the emission measuring. We have had performed laboratory tests and on-road tests to see whether the emissions from the vehicle, the local emissions, would increase due to using biofuels. And the conclusion here is that there's no significant change in emission compared to the standard diesel, which was a good result, because we expected actually that emissions could go up due to this. That was what we were informed by the technical institute that has carried out the evaluation. And then we have the carbon emissions, which was the reduction of carbon emissions were calculated based on the real consumption from the vehicles. So each month the bus companies and the Postal Service reported on their fuel consumptions from the involved vehicles, and the sum of biodiesel is equal to about 1,000 tons of carbon dioxide, which has been saved during the trial period, which was from 1st of October 2010 for the buses and from 1st of April 2011 for the Postal Service vehicles. And both of the projects ended in December 2012. So the conclusion is that we overcome all the challenges. We were new to this when we started. We were quite anxious on going into this, and we needed a lot of persuasion towards the private companies that were operating the buses and the Postal Service to get into this, because obviously they are very keen on their machinery, and yeah, they were a bit worried about this. But it was possible to operate buses and deliver vehicles on this second generation biodiesel of up to 20% without any problems recorded. We have been saving fossil fuels and thereby also reducing the carbon emission by 1,000 tons during the 2 years of demonstration, and we did it without significantly changing the level of other emissions. One challenge that we didn't overcome is the extra cost that Eduardo also was talking about, that this project it's quite more expensive than the ordinary diesel product. So the Public Transport Authority and also the Postal Service, they need to decide whether this is something that they want to invest in order to obtain their environmental targets or to get a green profile of things like that. And as the case in St. Sebastian, it looks very difficult to continue on biodiesel here in Aalborg. The demonstration has already ended in the buses and also in the postal service. So good things and bad things from this project. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Gustav. So I will check if there are questions from the participants. It seems we have no question. No. Okay. So as I mentioned earlier, I have a number of questions for you. But one of the questions that was raised before by chat was the link with the EU strategy, European strategy, also mentioned by Eduardo. So maybe it would be more relevant if I say a few words, because, so as I mentioned at the beginning of the webinar, the person who was supposed to represent the European Biodiesel Board, so the European Lobbying Association for Biodiesel is missing. She's on sick leave today, so she's not able to speak. But I think it's still relevant to say a few words on the European aspect, because as mentioned by Eduardo, 2 weeks ago, there was a publication from the document from the European Commission. So I want to say a few words on that, and I will show you a very small thing that I did very quick this morning because I was not supposed to present. So it's just a few words on what I've just mentioned. Okay. Yeah. So 2 weeks ago, 2.5 weeks ago, on the 24th of January, the European Commission published the Clean Power for Transport package. This is a package consisting of a communication on alternative fuels strategy and a directive on infrastructure development. I put the link on the document because I think it might be relevant for you to read if you haven't done so yet. And I will not go into detail because it's not really my specialty, but I wanted to mention a few points. So the Clean Power for Transport package will, with these two aspects, the communication and the directive, cover possible action from European Union to stimulate the use of alternative fuels. And as Eduardo mentioned it, biodiesel is mentioned. It's not a big thing. It's very minor, but it's still mentioned, so that's maybe already a good thing. It's mentioned together with other clean power, so electric, hydrogen, natural gas, LNG, CNG, LPG. And in the document from the Commission, basically they say that biodiesel is maybe not that well covered because it's already covering 5% of the market. So maybe they estimate that it's already good enough. I don't know. I mean, I cannot speak on behalf of the Commission, but that's what appears in their document. And this, so this European package is covering several aspects. for example, they give a definition of an alternative, what is alternative fuels. On that, so they keep a very institutional definition, and they include biofuel, of course, and they made a reference to the directive of 2009 from the European Parliament on this topic. They also explain a little bit what is the problem, or what's the background of this Clean Power for Transport package. For the European Commission, the situation at the moment is that the market for alternative fuels is still held back because of technological and commercial shortcomings. And they mention also a reference or a lack of consumer acceptance and missing infrastructure. We saw that with the biofuel it's not the case. And also they refer, when they mention the biofuels, that biodiesel don't need most of the time special infrastructure. So maybe also that's why it's not really developed in the document. And they also refer to national strategies to be developed by the member states, and that's, I will say a little bit more because it might be relevant for you. You might not be from member states representation or also, but as city representative, maybe I think you still have a role to play and you have things to say. So in this package, the European Commission covers suggested elements for the national strategies, and they mention, so you can see on the slide, reference to supporting measures with directive incentives, tax incentives. They refer to the use of public procurement, also to which measure to implement for deployment and manufacturing support, and also research and development. And they also define possible measures to implement, like, yeah, that's what I said, alternative fuel vehicles incentives. So it's very short where I just explain, but I wanted to cover a little bit the European aspect, because I think after having a look really at a very interesting example at the city level, it can be interesting to link with European work also, because we are, of course, within CIVITAS framework, so it's useful. So for your information, these two documents have been published 2 weeks ago, as I mentioned already. So if you want to know more, you can read. And if you or your cities is trying or working with some association, like your cities, for example, but with other associations also, you can work with them for preparing some answer or for checking the follow-up of these actions. So that's all from my side. And what I can suggest now is that I'm just checking what time it is exactly. I think we have about 20 minutes for questions. I know that we had a question from someone, but it was a question to Gerhard, asking, let me check, yeah, how is Graz coping with the objectives set by the European Union in this clean fuel strategies that I just mentioned? So I don't know if you can reply to this question or if you need some more.
Okay.
Oh. Okay.
No, it's okay. Maybe I will answer this question and give also maybe a short explanation about other things. So let's say just what is important for Graz, as I explained during my presentation, is that we will have our future maybe will not continue with biodiesel, but it is a still ongoing process, so we did not skip it after CIVITAS, which is very important. The one thing, The second thing is that we did not have problems with 100% biodiesel, but as you know, Graz is not really in the south of Europe, so we have winter, and just because I wanted to save some time, I didn't explain the system, how we organize it in winter time. So we had during CIVITAS 2 winters where we used biodiesel made from rapeseed oil, which means that you can use this biodiesel till -10 degrees. But in the meantime, we went back to the old systems, which means if the temperature is going down below 0 degrees, we switch to fossil diesel in a very simple way. Just put fossil diesel in the tank, which means you have a mixture at the beginning, and if the temperature is ongoing and cold, let's say after 1 day, you have 100% fossil diesel in your tank, and we make it in the other way around if the weather is going warmer. So it's a very easy way of blending during winter time. So that thing is very important to tell this. But to the clean fuel strategy, as explained, one of our ideas is to change to a combined system of CNG and biogas, which means also to use local resources in the surrounding area of Graz. But there is also one important thing, because you know a drumline is a vehicle which runs on electricity. So one of our main focus is to extend drumlines in Graz. We had just finishing a big project which offers a very good connection between the tramline and the national rail. So there are a lot of things you can see if you visit Graz. So our focus on tram extension, which mean electricity, and maybe in the future CNG and hybrid buses. So that's just a comment. Just check if there is anything. What is very important maybe to other countries, as I explained before, there is no tax on biodiesel in Austria. So at the end, with the higher consumption and no tax, it means there is no higher price for biodiesel, or there is no difference in the price biodiesel and fossil diesel. It's also, I think, very important. And as also the other representatives explained, not all problems are coming from biodiesel, but it is very easy for let's say for the bus engine producers to say it is biodiesel. But we also learned that there are a lot of other problems and they are not linked to biodiesel. So thanks at the moment.
Okay, yes, thank you. So I will just have a look and check if we have questions from the audience. Do we have questions? It seems not, but I have prepared some questions, so that's okay. I had a question to Alborg and Gustav, because you mentioned fueling facilities. So I think you say that you have implemented or created 3 new fueling facilities, and I was just wondering how was it decided, because I guess it's supposed to cover the city geographically, or just if you could say a little bit more on that.
Okay, I was just unmuting myself there. It was established after we knew who won the tender for the public transport. So it's established at their premises, the 2 of them, for the 2 companies, 1 at each place. And for the postal service, it's placed on the postal service premises. So it's at the companies who are operating on the biofuels that we have installed them. We had some discussion on where to put the one on the postal service premises, whether it should be in the city or at their place, but we ended up placing it at them. But it's not publicly available. It's only for the companies.
Then I have more general question. So maybe I'm just asking my question and then you see if you can reply or if you want to reply. I had one question which is a little bit linked with the presentation from Eduardo and San Sebastian, but it's also a general question. It's just that Eduardo mentioned, made a reference to social acceptance of the biodiesel. And so I was wondering, do you think that it's because it's of course positive to see that we are using our everyday used oil for running buses, for example, but do you think that people think also a bit further and try to think that this oil also is produced somewhere, and do they also ask themselves questions about where it comes from, or they just don't think about it? Because there are some discussion about biodiesel saying that yeah, of course it's better, but it's still also it still asks some questions about sustainability, because this oil is also produced by some production which might not be sustainable. So it's a very broad question. So I don't know, I will mute myself and see if someone wants to answer.
Yeah, okay, I can start. Okay. Yeah, at that point, the controversy between feedstocks, sustainability of the biodiesel and so on was very important from the first beginning. And indeed, in these 4 years, also one of the targets or the tasks that had to be done were related to dissemination. And we made, I think there were three public promotions of recycling oil, and it was very interesting because it was a way so we could explain to the people the whole cycle of the recycling and conversion of oil to biodiesel. So from the first beginning, when we explained that we were using used cooking oil, we got out from that controversy about sustainability of our biofuel, because it was solved immediately. I mean, and with these three campaigns, we approached to the citizens with press conferences. We also made an event. It was on Saturday's morning, where people could go to the to a place, to the municipality, and drop their oil, and they got a participation to a dinner in a restaurant. So we disseminate a lot this information through the citizens, and they knew perfectly that the oil, the idea is like in grass, the slogan, no? From the frying pan to the bus. I was something like that. Something similar in our case. We made publicity in our buses, in the radios, with this campaign. So we involve, again, it's very important to involve all the stakeholders, and one of them is the citizens themselves.
Okay, thank you. I don't know if Gerhard or Gustav, if you want to add something. Yes?
Yeah, maybe just, I think maybe it's very important to promote the system on the one side in the local areas. We also had promotion campaigns to force citizens to collect the used cooking oil. The only thing what happens maybe in the last years is in normal households, with new kitchen equipment, there is really not so much used cooking oil available. So the main focus at the moment is on the collection on the restaurants, because there is a high amount of raw material. But we learned that you cannot run a bus fleet in a city like Graz with the collected used cooking oil from Graz. So the collection is going to the neighboring countries like Hungary, Slovenia, and so on. And sometimes it is not enough, and then they have to change to, let's say, some problematic material. But this problematic material is also used in Austria, what I mean is rapeseed oil. I think that's important, because on the other side, and that's it was for our problems to get raw material and to get biodiesel started when biodiesel was blended in Austria to the whole fossil diesel. So at the end, you would never get 100% fossil diesel in Austria, because our fossil diesel is blended, I think, with 5.6% of biodiesel. So that's the starting point. So when I talk with 100, when I talk from fossil diesel, it's also blended material. So maybe that's a little bit different, but I think, as I know, there is a European regulation, so blending in diesel is an ongoing process in Europe.
Okay, thank you.
That's from my side.
Okay, thank you.
And from Aalborg, maybe I can add something about the, first of all, the ethical dimension that we used or that we faced when we were starting up this project. There was a lot of debate going on at that time on second generation biofuels. So we took that up front, you can say, by choosing the second generation biofuels, and we also communicated it to the public. So in that way, I think that we foresee any problems on that one. Another thing was that people were a bit afraid that this would smell differently than normal diesel. So we also had some events where people were actually able to go and smell the new biodiesel. Since it was made from animals, they were a bit afraid of that. And prior to our project and another project in Denmark, also the Muslim community was engaged in terms of the unethical and for them, or the unreligious part for them to inhale emissions made from pig meat. So that was another issue that we had to cope with, but the discussion was already closed when we started up the project.
Okay, thank you. Just checking that we don't have questions from other participants. So because it's also almost time, I just, unless there are additional questions, I would like to say a few words to conclude. To reply to one of the questions asked at the beginning, so the presentation, as mentioned already, will be available on CIVITAS website, and you will receive, all the participants will receive today or tomorrow an email asking them to fill in a survey for evaluation of this webinar, and you will have the link to the presentation presented or written in this email. I think that's all from my side to explain. So I'm speaking for me, but I was a little bit new to the subject, so now I feel that I know a lot. So I want to thank the speakers for their time and for their commitment, working at their city level and trying to do more, to work with more sustainable mobility. I hope the participants enjoyed this presentation. So as mentioned, there would be a survey. So if you have recommendations also for forthcoming webinar on suggestions on how to improve, or on topics, or on anything, you are of course welcome to contact us. So now I think it's time to finish, because we all have very busy agendas. Thank you again to everybody for your participation, and I hope you enjoyed the experience, which was quite an experience. So thank you for your time, and talk to you soon, I hope. Okay, so I'm going to close the webinar now. Thank you, and bye-bye.